What's good, family? So mash the like button, subscribe, and lick off the bell. So we've all seen UFC 270 now, and I can't lie, I'm glad I chose to sleep in and watch the replay. What a whopper, proper whopper of an event. The whole lot was crap, but even really, me personally, I'm a bit of a casual fan, so I was mainly tuning in for the NGANNOU versus GANE fight, and wow. It laid a huge, big, round, firm egg. You best believe that as well. So we've got arguably two of the best striking phenoms, two best heavyweight striking phenoms in the history of the sport, and it ended up being a roll on the floor. A battle of the roll. Who wants to see two big 280-pound men just on the floor like that? I don't. And people say, why do you always critique UFC? Why this, why that? Now you know why. It ruins. I understand that not everything can be boxing, but man, it's called mixed martial arts. You had GANE. NGANNOU comes in, yeah, with two massive knee things on his legs. And did you see GANE throw any leg kicks? Now, again, I'm a bit of a UFC casual, so I don't really watch it all, but I remember Poirier versus McTapper. Yeah? He won that fight by butchering the legs. What was GANE doing? And that was Dustin Poirier butchered McTapper, and that was without no injury. McTapper weren't known to have a specific injury. When a man like NGANNOU comes in, who has never before worn knee pads, it screams, go for the knees. What was he doing? And before the fight, I was hyping up GANE, saying, oh, GANE's a kickboxer, he did, see that. Where was the kickboxing? I thought kickboxers and them Muay Thai guys love to kick legs. What happened to that? And then to add insult to injury, GANE is going to be crying in his sleep, and rightly so, when he hears what NGANNOU said in the post-fight interview. In the post-fight interview, NGANNOU literally said, I had no legs, I had no knees, I broke my MCL, I broke my ACL, could barely walk. And people were, myself included, yeah, don't get me wrong, NGANNOU's not the lightest on his feet, but he was moving very gingerly. Now we know why. He had no legs. And meanwhile, GANE was doing that slap kick. It didn't do anything. What was he throwing that for? You might as well not bother. He was throwing this little puffy wuffy thing. This little slappy thing. What's that about? Now, I'm not trying to make out I'm some UFC professional, but come on. When people people don't wear support braces for nothing. I didn't see him target the knee once. And fair enough, you could argue, well, after the first two rounds, NGANNOU kept shooting in. We know one of the key ways to disable someone's kicks is to shoot. But for the first two rounds, NGANNOU didn't shoot once, I don't think. So what was GANE doing? It's not like, well, he was butchering the legs for a round and then NGANNOU started shooting, so GANE had to change the game plan up. He didn't even start attacking the legs. It's a madness. I mean, imagine, NGANNOU himself even said, if he had kicked me in the legs, I don't know what would have happened. Just imagine if GANE had pushed his knee. I'm not sure what you call it, but I think it's called a push kick. Either way, imagine a big 260-pound man pushing that knee in right the way backwards. That would have been game over. And he didn't do it once. I didn't see one push kick to the knee. I didn't see any kicks to the knee, to be quite frank. Not one. All we saw was that slappy thing that went to the calf, I think, or either way, it didn't do anything. How about that? Embarrassing. I'm really disappointed. Before the fight, I'm sitting there telling you, oh, it's the best UFC. And to be honest, though, this is often how it goes. When you have two striking guys, I'm trying to think of examples, but I know there has been, historically, yeah. I'm trying to think. But yeah, historically, whenever you hear about two big striking guys, it ends up being it always ends up going left, and this was as left as it can go. Now I'm going to let NGANNOU off a bit on the basis that he didn't have his knees, and I think I'm going to let him off because he wasn't very aggressive. He weren't doing much, was he? He was happy for the first two rounds just to get tickled. Truth be known, there wasn't nothing going on. He didn't want to commit. Now, luckily for NGANNOU, he found the wrestling. If GANE wasn't so useless at BJJ and wrestling, then NGANNOU would have lost tonight. But I got to give NGANNOU credit. Yeah, whatever. But Yeah, let's call a spade here. People watch Ngannou for the hands, explosive hands, and no one's trying to watch him lay on people. And what worries me now, and I actually hope Ngannou does go into boxing, because I ain't trying to watch him sit on people. And from this fight, what has become apparent is that, and I'm not saying Gan's some amazing wrestler, or BJJ guy, but still, what's become apparent is that Ngannou is very explosive, massively explosive. He was racked. I mean, Gan himself is a big, strong don, and Ngannou was just chucking him around like a doll in there. Extremely explosive and also extremely heavy. I'm hearing Ngannou cuts weight to get down to 265, the limit. He cut in weight, and he did look another level above. But what worries me is that I preferred Ngannou, when it was hands or bust, all in with the hands, or he loses. That's what I prefer to see, because now, I mean, from his point of view, I guess he don't mind laying on people for a championship, but this ain't it for me. I don't watch Ngannou to see him lay on people for 3 rounds. That's what happened. Let's be real now. I mean, I'm not blaming Ngannou, because to be fair, Gan weren't much better. He didn't do much. The few times he was, or in the last 3 rounds, in fact even the first 2 rounds, it's not like Gan came out and was doing all this real super duper cool stuff. He was just nicking the rounds. So really, neither man deserved to win this fight, truth be known. I think the fight should have been a draw. I want to see a rematch, and Dana needs to tell him, listen, that was crap, and it was crap. Ngannou needs to move to boxing if he's planning on just laying on people. I'm not impressed with that at all, and that's why I don't like the UFC. There needs to be, in my opinion, I forgot the referee's name, but it's the guy with the dreadlocks. I did see him looking, I'm not sure what round it was. At some point, Ngannou and Gan was just sitting there for so long, the referee was taking a look to stand them back up. I think, to make UFC better, there needs to be a rule. If it starts to stink for more than 5-10 seconds, you stand up. None of this 30 seconds crap. And when I say starts to stink, I don't mean just doing little bits and bobs. I mean literally. I believe a new rule needs to be implemented that if you're not doing something that actively can finish a fight, within 10 seconds, you get stood up. Bottom line. Because this ain't working for me. It's really not. Why? There's something wrong with the sport, when you've got 2 explosive kickboxing dudes, and you're on the floor for half the fight. That can't work. That's not a sport. That's boring. It's super boring, and it's super disappointing. One of the worst cards I've ever seen. Massive anticlimax. We're hearing about, Ngannou himself talking about, Gan ain't got a chin. I did a video on it. I did a video about Ngannou talking about how he ain't got a chin. Well, Ngannou, at which point were you going to tell us, or at which point in that fight, when you were laying on him, exactly did you think you were going to expose that chin? That's what I don't like, because fair enough, I can give Ngannou credit for being injured and turning up, but don't forget, people, this week, injured or not, Ngannou was talking about how Gan hasn't got a chin. Gan can't hold the shots. So, I didn't ask you to say that. If you sell a pay-per-view talking about how weak and vulnerable someone's chin is, I expect you... let's be real now. Did Ngannou land 1 clean shot? I don't think so. So why are you gassing all the fans up about... it's a bit like Anthony Joshua as well. Here's another one. Before the Usyk fight, talking about KOs. Don't be selling things and not doing it. Now, I understand you can't... It's not about the KO for me. It's about the attitude. If you talk about KO and weak chin, we expect you to show us some KO and weak chin. And what I find even more confusing, now looking back, is the fact that the first 2 rounds, Ngannou was gingerly moving forward and just getting kind of picked apart. When I say picked apart, I mean it was very basic picking apart. In fact, scrap that, it wasn't picking apart. Gan was nicking rounds. Gan nicked the first 2 rounds, doing barely anything, as Ngannou just followed him around the ring, cautiously. Now, the reason I accepted what Ngannou was doing was the basis that I thought that Ngannou was scared of the takedown from Gan, which is often what we see with strikers. It's a bit like when Ngannou fought Stipe. When Ngannou fought Stipe, he'd kind of gingerly move forward, but not wanting to commit, because he'd then be into the clinch and into Stipe's backyard. So I understand that. But now, on hindsight, having seen the last 3 rounds where Ngannou dominated the wrestling, it begs the question. In theory now, Ngannou should have walked in there, walked straight forward, and just got stuck in, no? So it's all a big, bottom line, it's all a big mess. I'm not impressed with any of it. I'm really not. Gan, awful game plan. And to be fair, I'm not sure about these interpreters are crap, so I'm not going to take his word for it. But I think Gan's trainer did say go for his legs, but clearly not enough. I'd have been screaming. The man's got knee pads on. You've got to commit. Go for the knees. Bottom line, go for the knees, go for the legs, especially for so. And in fact, scrap the knee pads. NGANNOU has a very, I know he said he was plodding and moving gingerly because he had knee, but listen, NGANNOU at the best of times plods and is very stuck in the mud, but it's huge, so it's what it is. It's not a negative necessarily, but it is what it is. NGANNOU's a plodder, a massive heavy plodder. Why are you not butchering the legs? Regardless of the knees injury specifically. I'm thinking, this guy. And Gan's meant to be this really explosive kickboxing dude, and he's doing this dancey crap and dancing backwards and dancing in and out. What's the point? What's the point of being loosey-goosey? The whole point of being loosey-goosey is to let leg kicks go, in my opinion. If you're going to be all loose-looking, like, think of it like, the best example for me really is like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's very loose, isn't he? But guess what? His legs are going. Gan... And it was embarrassing, the fact that Gan, it's not like he didn't throw no kicks. It was the fact that he was doing that slappy thing. What was that about? What was it about? I'd love for someone to explain. What was you doing with that? Big hardback 280-pound man and he's slapping. And it was a slap, let's be real now. There was no nothing on that. Embarrassing. So yeah, Gan really, bearing in mind NGANNOU was the champion going in, I think initially I was a bit frustrated. Because I thought I was angry at Francis for lying about going for the KO and whatever else. But on hindsight, NGANNOU was the champion coming in. Did Gan do enough? No, he didn't. Scrap the last 3 rounds. Yeah, NGANNOU stunk the place out, just laying on him. But the first 2 rounds, like I said, I'd be a lot more against NGANNOU if, for example, let's say Gan had to come out the first 2 rounds, yeah, super explosive, super creative, and kicking the knees and doing all extra stuff, and then NGANNOU had a laid on him for 3 rounds, that would have pissed me off. But the fact that Gan didn't do much, in the first 2 rounds, when NGANNOU showed, like, let's be real now, for the first 2 rounds, yeah, the only dangerous one, the only person scared of the takedown really was NGANNOU. So the first 2 rounds, Gan had a free license to just let stuff go. What did he do? He didn't do anything. He was backing up and just throwing little bits here and there. And I don't care what no one says. If you want to beat the champion, you've got to come with something more than that. Now, I will give Gan some credit. In the last round, he kind of came out, but then, in fact, was it the last round where Gan had top position, and then he started going for some ankle lock or something, leg lock, and ended up getting flipped because France is too explosive. What was that? I think Cormier and Joe Rogan shouted out, wow, that was poor fight IQ, and it was poor. But either way, listen, the bottom line is there needs to be new regulations brought in. That last round, I think the last 3 rounds should have been stood up. Bottom line. I don't get this whole, I don't understand, it's not a sport. 2 big 280-pound sweaty men, yeah, laying on each other for 3 minutes is not a sport, I'm afraid. Hate to break it to you, not a sport. If you're not doing something actively, trying to finish a fight, stood up straight away. This is way too long. That carried on for way too long. And the thing is, people forget, this isn't athletics or the Olympics where people want to see a winner. People want to, like, the Olympics is free, do you understand? The Olympics is about the sport. This is prize fighting. This is what we call pay-per-views. People are paying for this. Entertainment is number 1. Yeah? Just because, from NGANNOU's point of view, and it's not blaming him, he's doing what he can do for the rules, but from the sports point of view, Dana needs to take a serious look, because that's not cool. And I got a feeling, and yeah, in the post-fight, NGANNOU did say that, well, I'd rather got the KO, but my knees, etc., etc., but listen, I got a feeling NGANNOU is going to fall in love with just hanging on people. That's what I got a feeling about, because why not? I got a feeling he's going to do it. He probably, for NGANNOU for the future, yeah, he'll probably do a round or 2 and then just hang on you. Now, I guess people could argue, well, he won't do that when he's in there with some better wrestlers, which is true, but really, look around. Who is there? Stipe? Is he going to have another go? Well, the thing is, with NGANNOU's level of takedown defense and wrestling in general, I don't think Stipe's got a chance. because he's only going to get better at it, and he's so explosive, and clearly his gas tank isn't that bad. He didn't. I actually said in my pre-fight video that, oh, it's interesting. Let's see if, because in my mind I had it that Gane was going to be the cardio guy. We know he can go 5 rounds. I had it that Francis was going to run out of gas after 3 rounds, and Gane was going to pick him apart. And NGANNOU was going to look like a zombie, a big, heavy, 280-pound African zombie. That's what I thought was going to happen. Instead, I mean, there was one point in round 5 when I think Gane ended up in half guard, or I'm not sure what you call it, but either way, and Daniel Cormier said, "Oh look, NGANNOU's on his back, and NGANNOU's given up." And I thought, wow. Because Gane had top position, but he's so explosive. He went from laying flat on his back to exploding up, and that was it. I think he flipped it. But yeah, not impressed at all, truth be known. Really not impressed. The overall vibe weren't impressed at all. Really, when you sell it on, when these two men weren't sold on, we're going to spend over half the fight just laying on each other, doing squat. Now, I'm not someone, I don't necessarily appreciate wrestling or appreciate BJJ, but if you're doing cool things, you're doing cool things. These two men didn't do no cool things. So what were we on the floor for all night? Then again, like I said, to be fair to BJJ and wrestler guys, guess what? They weren't doing nothing on the feet, was they? Let's be real now. What did NGANNOU do on the feet all night? Nothing. What did Gane do on the feet all night? Nothing. Now the last thing I'll say is, CIRYL Sonnen came out and said, "Oh, Gane got robbed." Now, yeah, CIRYL Sonnen came out and said that Gane got robbed. It should have been a win for... Yeah, he said Gane should have won. I mean, I don't know about that. Bearing in mind, Francis was the champion, and my rules go, when you're the champion, you get given the benefit of the doubt. But even without the benefit of the doubt, there's no doubt in my mind that Gane won the first 2 rounds. That's a fact. But the last 3... And I admit, that's the thing you see with this wrestling game. When you're not doing much, it is easy. The little bits Gane was doing, he was doing this, the thing, he weren't doing much either himself though. Let's not make out he was, you know what I mean? He wasn't lighting Francis up on the feet, he wasn't doing much himself. So that's why, there's no doubt, NGANNOU won. He was a champion, they both did nothing, but I think, ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to. Francis was the champion, he went in champion. He won 2.5 rounds. That's how I look at it. Really, they both won 2.5 rounds, but because Francis was the champion, he comes out the winner. And I think, and that's the thing about what CIRYL said, even CIRYL GANE himself admitted he knew after the fight. And I respect that, actually. I do respect that. Because other people, when it's a close fight, other people put their hands up even though they know they've lost. So I do really, and that's why before the fight I did say I actually wanted Gane to win. Was that the performance he won on? No, it was not. And even as someone, even though I'm completely unbiased, even though I wanted Gane to win, I'm not going to come on here and just say, "Oh my God, won." He didn't win. He lost. Bottom line, and he knows that. And he's frustrated, but he needs to take that frustration. And to be fair, look at Francis. Francis took the frustration from the Stipe loss, and that really his whole career. Gane needs to do the same thing. Gane needs to realise that this is the world championship level. You can't come in there playing. You can't come in there making silly mistakes, going for the leg lock or whatever when you had top position. You can't go in there just going through the motions. He should have gone in there and laid something down. And I just can't, honestly, I can't believe what Gane didn't do with the legs. I'm sorry. I didn't see one. All it needed, and Francis himself, I know I've said it before, but listen, all it needed was for Gane, 260-pound Gane, to push his knee in, and that would have been game, set, and match. He would have buckled. I mean, them knee push kicks are bad enough when you got a healthy knee. It's the worst thing. Think about it. Imagine your knee going backwards. Imagine a 260-pound man pushing your knee in for you. It's horrible. It's a whole nother level when you've got ACL and MCL tears. He didn't throw one. He didn't even, never mind push kick, he didn't throw any kicks at the knee. Man's got knee braces on. What the can you believe it? But really, that there sums up this whole fight, truth be known. Sums it up. Yeah? It sums it up. Anyway, what a whopper of a card. The kind of thing is for me, I don't talk about UFC a lot, so let me discuss this here. Where do we go from here? I'll tell you this now. If John Jones watches that fight, he'll be licking his chops, in my opinion. He'll be licking his chops. Then again, we would probably find out how explosive Ngannou really is against a proper top level wrestler in someone like John Jones. Because there is a big question mark about Ngannou's explosiveness. He just has this magical power, and that's what literally made the difference today. I don't even think it was really technique. It wasn't Ngannou's technique that made the difference. It was the man's he's full of fast twitch, 100%, 10 out of 10 fast twitch. Can Jones's technique overpower the rawness and that fast twitchness? We don't know. Will it happen? Again, I wouldn't bet on it. UFC's turning into boxing, truth be known. We can't get well, not all of them, but half of the half-shot fights we can't get. And I would like, to be honest, looking at the heavyweight, if John Jones don't move up, what is there? I mean, innit? Who is there? Who's knocking about at heavyweight, realistically? No one. I think Dana needs to swallow his pride and allow Ngannou to go up to boxing. However, what I would say is, I think that they should do it in the UFC, and I think Tyson Fury, to be fair, would be up for that. We know Tyson Fury has done the UFC, done WWE before. I think that Dana should allow Tyson Fury to come over to the UFC and they have a boxing match with 4-ounce gloves on. I don't think Ngannou should do real boxing. I just don't. I think there needs to be a cross and a balance between the two. Not in terms of, obviously it's going to be only hands only, but I think the gloves will make a big difference. Why? Well, what we know is, I'm not sure about Ngannou's conditioning. Is Ngannou going to be able to hold his hands up with 10-ounce gloves on? I don't know. Them 4-ounce ones, and also the 4-ounce gloves, they make things, and to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing Tyson Fury in 4-ounce gloves. I've been saying for a long time that I want to see a boxer in 4-ounce gloves. I think that's what boxing really should be looking at now. Boxing is stale. They need to make a change after 50 years. And I think that Ngannou versus Fury could be that key thing. If they do Francis versus Fury in 4-ounce gloves, trust me. I mean, if you think Wilder versus Fury was good, just imagine that. The shots are much crisper. And also, not only are the shots offensively crisper, but it's a lot harder to beat. Like, you can't, with 10-ounce gloves, it's easier to hide. You can put your guard up, you've got the big round fluffy gloves, and it's easy to hide there. With them 4-ounce gloves, you can have your guard up, and still a hand can go straight down the middle, which will be important for someone like Tyson Fury. He relies on them gloves to some extent. He has good defense, he uses it. When you ain't got them gloves, I mean, your body's a lot of the time, the reason in boxing the body's hard to hit is because the gloves cover it. When you got them 4-ounce gloves, everything's wide open. And that's why, well, not the only reason, but it's a big reason why in the UFC we see kicks landing on the body, or you can barely get a punch to land on the body in boxing. So I would like, that is the direction for Francis now. I'm not sure, well, I guess the reason Dana's against it is because he don't want his big new prospect to lose. Which I understand that. And when you think from Dana's point of view, he's probably looking at the heavyweight division, seeing how Francis has improved in the wrestling department, and he's thinking, wow, this Francis guy, he may legitimately be champion for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Why would I pop that bubble with a loss to Fury in boxing? Because don't forget, a lot of the reason people tune in for Ngannou is the fact that, oh, it's the 8th wonder of the world, King Kong looking ass. Yeah? Well, guess what? If King Kong gets popped by some next dude from the UK, then it turns, if you know, even if it's a different sport, part of the reason we watching Francis is because we think, oh, there's no one ever punched harder than him, and you know what I'm saying? If he goes in there and gets slapped to death by Fury, it's a bit of a turn off, isn't it? It's not who you think it was. But then again, look at Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson lost many times and was still a massive star. And maybe the bottom line is, and actually thinking about it, who knows? In 4-ounce gloves, yeah, that fight for me will be a 50-50 fight. If Francis is given 6 months or more to focus solely on boxing, especially as we've seen his cardio improve over the last X amount of time, Francis given 6 months to a year of pure boxing training in 4-ounce gloves. That fight to me is a 50-50 fight. Because Ngannou, unlike Wilder, Wilder can't fight on the inside. He don't have hooks and uppercuts. Francis is all hooks and uppercuts. And Tyson Fury, we know Tyson Fury has adopted this new style of coming forward. And if he does that against Francis, I mean, at best, I would actually, personally, I'd put money on Francis on that fight. In 4-ounce gloves, I'm going with Francis in the Fury fight. In 10-ounce gloves, I'm not so sure. That is much more of a 50-50 fight with 10-ounce gloves on. Either way, I want to see it, but I do think that's how potentially Francis and Dana can come together. If Francis says to Dana, listen Dana, we'll bring him over to the UFC and we'll do this, we'll do that. That's what I think Francis' management team should be doing now. And actually, from Dana's point of view, I've just explained the downside, i.e. if Tyson Fury pops Ngannou's cherry, but again, it's the gambling business. Think of the upside. If it's all well and good, but if he loses, and that's the thing, Francis isn't unbeaten. You're not marketing him on an unbeaten basis, so that's already a plus. He's already lost, and he's already shown he can come back. But like I said, more importantly, think of the upside. If your man, Francis, beats Tyson Fury, the man who's undefeated in boxing, it sends him, that may be actually the thing Francis needs. Don't forget, Francis right now isn't a Conor McGregor. Or, you know what I mean? He hasn't got that pulling multi-million pay-per-view pulling power. If Francis knocks out Tyson Fury, that'll be it. And actually, thinking about the upside versus the downside, I actually think the reward's greater. A loss to Tyson Fury, obviously, if Francis gets knocked out, it's a lot worse. But I don't think Francis has got a rock-solid chin. He ain't Deontay Wilder. That's for sure. Rock solid. I've never seen Francis rocked. I mean, look at Stipe. Stipe thought there was something sweet. Stipe hit him, thought he was rocked, and ended up flat on his back. Francis, so far, even when Francis has been cardiovascularly compromised, i.e. gassed, he's still, most people when they're gassed, they end up chinned. We've never seen Francis in that position, despite being gassed. His chin's cast iron. I don't see Tyson Fury stopping him. Unless, well, you know, that's the thing. It's exciting. And I hope that should be the move now for Dana White. Because nothing else, I'm afraid. I know, and that's the thing, I know Dana's in love with the whole, we don't need to have superstars and I can build anyone to be a superstar. But listen, that's the next big one. If Francis just stays in the UFC, I mean, it's one thing, Let's say the John Jones fight doesn't happen. What is there? The heavyweight division is stale. Francis going in there and just ploughing through one of these random top 50 dudes, boring. No one's trying to watch that. The Fury fight has risk, but it has massive upside. If the risk is 1, the upside is 3 or 4, in my opinion. If you knock Tyson Fury out, wow, you are then, I believe, you'll be rocketed into the McGregor lane, I believe. However, again, the risk, I think Dana's probably looking more further down the line, in as much as, well, if I give Francis a taste of boxing, and he gets a taste of them $10 million paydays, and I'm only paying him $1 million, how long am I going to be able to keep him for? But equally, I'm not sure how many fights Francis has left on his thing. Well, you may not be able to keep him anyway. But I just think that Dana needs to be fair here. That said, I do appreciate that people do forget about who they were before the UFC. Francis weren't no one before the UFC. So I do appreciate that. People are quick to complain about the UFC, but number one, like Dana says, everyone else can set their own company up. That's the first thing. Number two, who were you before the UFC? Yeah, you were in a mine somewhere. So it's all well and good saying, I want this, I want that now. But it has to work both ways. And that's why I think they need to meet somewhere in the middle. Give him the Tyson Fury fight. And then say to him, listen, if I give you the Tyson Fury fight, you owe me 4 more fights in the UFC. I think that'd be a fair trade-off as well. Because then, if you beat Fury, you become a massive name, and then you've got that massive name into 4 more UFC fights. Plenty of coins for Dana. But let's see how it plays out anyway. All I'm saying is I want to get Ngannou away from this wrestling business, truth be known. I don't want to see him turn into someone that's... the amount of times we saw him shoot tonight, I think he's in love with wrestling all of a sudden. I really do. I think he's fell in love with just diving in and being explosive. That's not the look, people. It really ain't. Ain't no one trying to watch that. There's an argument. There's actually an argument tonight that Ngannou's stock has dropped. Truth be known. I think it was his first fight he's won by decision. Now, the purists may enjoy that, but listen, pay-per-views ain't bought by the purists. Pay-per-views are bought by the casuals. We want ferociousness, no doubt.